Hi, I'm Deborah, business owner and mom to Gen Z kids on a mission to make sure they get hired and become financially independent as soon as possible. If you're a parent wanting to get your kids hired or a new job seeker desperately trying to get hired, this show is for you, and I am so glad you're here. Okay, everyone, welcome back to the show. So today I have a very special guest who also happens to be somewhat of a social media celebrity. His viral videos have been seen more than 200 million times, and his work has been featured in the New York Post, New York Times, Daily Mail, NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox News. His name is Chip Leighton from The Leighton Show, and he is the king of sharing teenage comedy in the most organic and relatable way. His entire feed is filled with wild things teenagers say and will no doubt make you laugh and feel validated as a parent of teenagers. If you're not already following him, I'll link his handles in the show notes, so give him a follow as soon as possible, as you won't want to miss any of his hilarious teenage humor. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy my interview with Chip Leighton. So welcome to my show. I am just overjoyed that you took the time out of your day to meet with me. You're basically like a local parent celebrity nationwide. I mean, I'm sure you hear that from time to time, but it's your content is just so incredibly relatable and your delivery is excellent. So you got to start from the top and tell us how you got started.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, thanks for having me, first of all, and looking forward to it. But yeah, I mean, it all started innocently enough. I started to use TikTok like a few years ago, and my daughter and I started using it. We really liked it because it was just kind of a funny platform. And one of the things I like about that and like Instagram Reels is like anybody can post something with no following, and if it's like engaging enough, it'll go to a lot of people. And so I thought, I might be able to post some funny stuff. And it took a while. It was like after like 6 months, I had like 17 followers, and I was actually going to delete my account, but then I did one thing about marriage that kind of went viral, and then a couple weeks later, I did something about teenager messages for my daughter that went viral, and I kind of just kept building over time. And it started with like stories from my own family and texts and stuff, but it's turned into this thing where like people from all over will send me their funny teenager text messages, and I mostly feature those kind of a thing. So yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Isn't it crazy how, because you're in Maine, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and I'm in California, and so we are truly nationwide here. And it
Right.
is fascinating how similar all these teenagers are and just what they
Yeah.
say and the language they use. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, for sure. I get a lot of I get a lot of comments from parents that, well, it's either like, hey, did you steal my phone because it looked like all my kids' messages, or like, hey, maybe I'm not the worst parent after all, or maybe my kid's normal, because I
Yes.
guess all teenagers do this, which is good, because you want to, I mean, the teenage years can be challenging in some respects, but you want to yeah, you want to sort of know. I guess it's a little reassuring to know that you're normal, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that solidarity, I feel like speaks volumes because, yeah, like you said, these years can be rough when that frontal lobe isn't fully formed.
Mm.
The wild things that come out of their mouth and their decision making isn't just really dialed in yet.
Yeah, it makes for good content though. So
Doesn't it? That's the other thing that I think is so unique is that your delivery of the content. It's
well,
consistent across the board. You always have some great song.
referencing, I guess, mostly the teenager text messages where I'm not even
Yes.
speaking in those, but I do. I mean, it's a visual and it's an audio medium too. So like the song you pick and the visuals in the background, like they do matter, because it's like if you're on Instagram Reels or whatever, it's a split second decision if you're scrolling or you want to watch something. And so I do kind of pay a pretty close attention to the details to try to make it be be something good. And I mean, if I do other stuff where I'm speaking in it, like I do these things I've apologized to my wife for, or things I've apologized to my teenagers for, and that's more of like a deadpan delivery with against a green screen. That's like a kind of a different thing, but yeah, because I mean, some of these themes are obviously like not unique to me, like just like we were talking about, but it's really, I think the execution is a big part of whether people are going to enjoy them or not. So
No, for sure. That's absolutely true. I mean, for I like you mentioned your images. I love your images. I love the music. And then of course the content is just that's
yeah,
really the creme de la creme.
yeah.
I know I think I may have sent you one from time to time
Oh,
or a couple. And I sent my kid a text message one day. It was when there was kids here all summer long, and there's just towels and trash and
yeah.
cups and knives and everything is all in their room and food. And I was like, hey, if all this stuff isn't brought upstairs every day, a hefty fine will be imposed upon checkout. And I wrote this cute
Yeah.
little message out, and I was like, oh, I'm not being a naggy mom. He's going to relate to this. And he was like, you really took the time to write all that out. Go you, IG.
That's right.
Go you, IG.
Um,
I had to look up what IG was. That was, I guess. That's what that meant.
Yeah, yeah. I think I remember that one actually. That's good.
Because it's interesting that the abbreviations they use too are just
Um,
so it's just too much time to use punctuation and type out a
right.
whole word.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. I got in trouble once because I used a period to separate two sentences in a text message. It's like you
Oh,
do
and then
that,
they
they're
ask
like,
if you're mad. Are you mad?
right, right. Yeah. I don't know if you're going for this, but you're coming across as very passive aggressive right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Sometimes if I even just use a capital in the wrong, if I say okay, it's
Hmm. Yeah.
wait,
Why'd you
are you
take the time to
upset?
type that out? Right.
Hmm.
Right.
Just so you know, you and I have the swim parent thing in common,
That's right. That's
which
right. Yeah.
if you know, you know. So anybody listening that's had kids in the swim program knows just how incredibly long these meets can be. They're
Mm.
brutal. And I'm
Yeah.
assuming in Maine, they're indoors, right?
Well,
Likely.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like no, they're all indoors and like, you're choking on these chlorine fumes and it's like 100,000 degrees in there. But like somebody I used to work with lived in Florida for a while and he was a swim parent. He's like, oh yeah, they're outside. Somebody wheels out like a bar cart and we have drinks and stuff. And it's 75
What?
degrees. I'm like, all right,
Wow.
that's very different from being a swim parent in Maine. So maybe California is not quite the same way, but it feels like you could be. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the comment of come to the swim meet, but don't cheer, just sit there. Was that
Yeah.
your son?
It wasn't. No, I forget who said that, but that kind of encapsulates the whole thing. There's a whole series of them around sporting events and just like don't clap any louder than other parents and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's there's a lot of rules you got to follow.
There is a lot of rules. And my son definitely has said those exact words to me. And at my first meet, it's chaotic and there's kids everywhere and there's so much going on at once. So I was like, shoot, okay, so I'll sit here and maybe I won't cheer. And then I'm seeing parent after parent get up to the lane and like go nuts when their kids
Right,
swimming. And I'm like, oh,
right.
this is all fair game. I'm ignoring this. Okay, so tell me, you said it started initially with your kids sending, funny things and things like
Yeah.
that. What did you have any pushback? Like, were they upset when you were kind of making fun of these things early
Uh,
on, or?
I mean, not really. My daughter, uh, she used to claim that she was like responsible for like 80% of my content or whatever,
Oh,
like credit, but it's not that way anymore. I don't think it was ever quite that way, but no, they're mostly just like not that impressed with it or whatever, They're like, yeah, she calls me like she's got different terms for me. Like these days, she calls me the unemployed middle-aged TikToker, which I'm
oh.
not disputing the facts there, but it's like put in my bio or whatever. But you have to make it clear that these aren't all our texts now, because like all my
Oh,
friends think I said these. Like there was one about like a marching band. It was like a kid who said like delete the marching band post now, and my daughter was like, yeah, my friend was like, I didn't even know you did marching band. It's like they're not all for me. You gotta, yeah. So
you
that's
have
the
to
dynamic now.
clarify. Oh,
Yeah,
that's funny. Just last week, I have a kid in Oklahoma at the University of Oklahoma, and he
oh,
got sick his first week away. And so I'm like, hey, go to urgent care and just get yourself checked out because you never know. And he is normally together, but he gets in the parking lot, calls him from the parking lot, and goes, what do I say?
right, right. What are my symptoms? Right,
Yes.
right, yeah.
I go, that's no different than do we have a zip code? I mean, really.
Yeah, yeah. There was one from a kid who was at the doctor outside, like in the parking lot, and it was, do I just go in where it says entrance? So
Oh God.
some of these things
I
you feel like they
know.
should be able
Isn't
to
that
figure out.
frightening? It's
Right.
frightening.
Yeah.
Chip, when I was telling you about my business and how, I'm
Yeah.
focused on this generation and getting them hired. I mean, I have skin in
Yeah.
this game, so this is
Yeah.
this is my mission.
Yeah.
And I am seeing a lot of this kind of unfortunately transfer over into resumes and how they
Mm.
present themselves in interviews. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you know, but 25% of this generation is showing up with their parents to interviews.
That's crazy. I can't imagine that. Like my kids would, I mean, I guess not every kid's the same, but like my kids would, they won't even like tell me if they're like applied for a job, much less bring me along. Yeah.
Same, but there are definitely kids that are just
Yeah.
really tethered to that and they're terrified.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That is a little scary. Yeah,
isn't
there
it?
there is. I was thinking about some of the like job related like texts and things that that I've seen. There's the resume is like I've seen a bunch of pretty funny texts around resumes. Like there's a bunch of kids who are like, hey, where's my resume? Do I have a resume? Like they think it's like something that the government issues them or whatever, rather than something they have to create. And there's one girl who was like, she was trying to ask for a job application, and she was like at like a store, and she's like, "Hey, can I have a resume?" It's like it's a little different.
Every time I work with a student, it's wildly different. And I'm always so shocked of, wow, there's really a need for this because there's just so much they don't know. And they certainly are
Yeah,
capable of learning. They just don't know.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. Yeah,
they
plus the
eventually
job,
figure it out.
but yeah, plus the application itself. Like I had this with my son who he was applying for something this summer, and it's like it asks him all these questions, and they just like they pepper you with, you're like, "Am I authorized to work in the U.S. or do I like have I ever been incarcerated?" I'm like, I think you know the answer to some of these questions, but it's like they ask these crazy questions. Yeah,
Yeah, it really is nuts. I know. I see it with my kids too. I'm just like, oh my gosh, how do you not know this? So,
right, right.
so you have one kid in college, correct?
Yeah,
And one at
yeah,
home? Okay,
yep.
so how has that college experience been for your kid and the drop off and all of it? I know I heard you talk about your experience of the feeling. So tell me a little bit about
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I got one a junior in college, junior in high school, and yeah, my son's a junior in college, and he loves it. It's been great. It was like a great fit for him, and it's a different dynamic than it was like certainly when I was in college, where there was no texting, and so you'd maybe call once a week, at the phone down the hall in the dorm or whatever. But
Yeah.
now they can ask you questions, which is I mean which is a good thing, right? That's you might get some funny ones, which is even better, but yeah, it was I mean, with the oldest, he was ready to go and we were ready to, see him go, but it was still like people were like, "Oh, you gotta bring a lot of tissues," because, like my husband and I had to like pull over to the side of the road. We couldn't even drive afterwards. And I was like, I think it's gonna be like that or whatever. But then we dropped him off, and it's like when we said goodbye, it was pretty hard actually. I mean, it was my wife and I were kind of like staggering around the parking lot. So it's kind of similar, but like, we went to like family weekend a few weeks later, and he was settling in great, and it's really reassuring to see them doing well and that they found the right school. So yeah, it's been great. It's definitely a little bit of a transition. Yeah,
So what do you think the biggest shift from when like we were in college, because you're Gen X also, I'm assuming.
yep,
Yes.
yep.
Okay. Compared to what they're dealing with now, I know the texting is an issue, but what other major things do you see are as differences for them?
Yeah, I mean, well, just the presence of phones and stuff is big. I mean, I would have hated to have had like everybody with the a camera in their pocket like when I was in college. Like you don't some
Right.
of that stuff you don't want recorded for sure. And but it's like I was saying, it's just they're not as like disconnected and like totally gone. Like they're reachable, and I mean, some kids are more responsive than others, I guess. But so they're navigating all that stuff. I mean, my take is like, so because I do a lot of like content where kids like show up in college and they don't know how to do laundry or mail a letter or whatever. And my advice is like, I don't really think that matters too much because they can just go on Google or YouTube and figure that stuff out. Like it's easy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't sweat it if you haven't taught your kids how to mail a letter. Like they'll figure it out. So I would focus more on like the important stuff they can't learn on YouTube, like just how to be a good person and their values and that
For
kind of stuff.
sure.
And the little stuff will come. So and it provides great content. So that's another reason not to teach
Doesn't
it.
it?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I think all those superficial things are truly just that. I mean, they
Yeah.
will learn how to navigate that. Um, I just want to make sure that they learn how to, conduct themselves in an interview and make
Right.
eye contact and,
Right. Yeah. I
those
mean, that
types of
is
things.
right. Yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot because, well, I mentioned like both my kids have had like summer jobs, and it's like they're both like quite independent. And they don't really, ask for a lot of help or want a lot of help. But it's like, but you kind of also don't know, like, should I explain stuff or do they already know? Do they know like how to get dressed for an interview or like how to, if they should follow up or, do other things like that? And so it's, I think when you do get into those kind of situations, you can help them out by being a little more assertive with what you share and that sort of thing, because
Yeah, for
like I was
certain.
thinking like like some of the jobs I've had, like the only reason I got them was like I followed up with a phone call even though I'd already applied. And I think kids today it's more like, yeah, no one got back to me or whatever. But it's like, well, they probably won't unless you like follow up, and you might find something that happens that way. So I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
For certain. Yeah, I find that there's so much about that they don't know. And I have a brother that's 12 years younger than me, and he lived with me a little bit after college. And so we, in order for him to pay his dues, I would send him to the store to like go get groceries and stuff for us. And I'll
Mhm.
never forget the day he called me from the store and he's like, butter lettuce. So you want butter and you want
Right,
lettuce.
right, yeah.
And then I had to break the news that no, I want the living butter lettuce. And he was like really in a tailspin. But, eventually
Right.
now he
Yeah,
flies airplanes for the Air Force. So they all
yeah, yeah,
eventually close that
right.
gap and figure it
Yeah,
out. But
yeah.
um, yeah, it is. I feel like your account has just really highlighted. I hate to say how ill prepared they are because there, of course, are exceptions and, some of them figure it out. But gosh, I got to tell you, Chip, from what I'm seeing, they're not figuring it out quick enough and they're
Mm.
just not there yet. And like
Yeah,
employers just don't want to hire this generation. It's frightening.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm sure that's, yeah, I mean, you're in a really interesting position to see that. And I'm sure like, yeah, I mean, I was in the corporate world for a long time. I left last year, but I didn't have a lot of experience hiring kids like quite this young, whatever. But I mean, even I noticed kind of like in the later years at my job, like, I wouldn't see like thank you notes written after interviews, which like, when I was younger, that would be unheard of if you didn't like send a thank you note,
Correct.
even electronically, whatever is fine. But
Yeah. They'll
yeah,
do a Zoom interview and not put their camera on. Can you even imagine?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so let's talk about your book because
Oh yeah.
all of
Yeah.
this started with a TikTok account where you
Yeah.
had 17 followers, and now
Yeah.
you're a published author,
Right.
and it's due out next month, correct?
Yeah, November 12th it publishes. So yeah.
Oh my
Yeah, it's
gosh.
yeah, it's exciting. It's called What Time is Noon, which is another kind of disturbingly common teenager question. And yeah, it's full of like hundreds of these funny text messages, and it's got like stories from my family and like quizzes and charts and graphs and other little features. So it's I'm really happy with the way it came out. I think people will get a laugh out of it. It's a great gift, to give somebody for who's a parent or even kid going to college or whatever. So yeah, you can pre-order it. I'm not sure when you'll air this exactly, but you can pre-order it today, and
Yes, for
comes out the
sure.
12th. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think it's I think it'll be a fun read. Yeah.
For sure. Yes, I've already pre-ordered my copy. Several of my
Excellent.
friends
Excellent.
have as well. We can't wait. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not
It's
just a
yeah.
compilation of quotes. There's
No, no.
more
I
to
mean,
it.
that's yeah, yeah. It's probably like 50%, quotes, and then there's, like I said, little stories for my family and those kinds of things. And so, yeah, yeah. I think it's yeah. I think it's a fun book. Hopefully, other people will find it that way too.
Yes, I can't imagine. I feel like
Yeah,
it's like the best stocking stuffer. Everybody needs to be
yeah,
buying it
yeah,
for the holidays. That's
yeah.
awesome. And what a great release time too.
Yeah, it'd be good. It's also like 1 week after the election, so it's like a little bit of
Oh,
like
well, we'll
like a
need the
palate
levity.
cleanser. Right, right,
Yes.
right. So it's like if
Yes.
there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that teenagers are funny. So
It's the lemon sorbet we all need for
exactly,
sure. For
exactly. So
sure.
yeah.
So what would you if you what are some of your favorite all-time quotes from either the book or
Oh
just in your feed?
yeah. I mean, there's so many. It's always tough to break it down. I mean, I've always liked the did grandma have kids one?
Oh
That's
God.
like that's a real thinker.
Oh my God.
There's well, you mentioned the holidays. There's the hey, I tried this cologne on at the store I want for Christmas. The brand is called Tester. It's
Oh
like,
wow.
yeah, a lot of everybody's
Mm.
gonna be wearing that one. Well,
Hmm.
like I mentioned, I was thinking about some work related ones. There's also the uh, when do I give my 2 weeks notice? So
Mm.
that's a good one. I posted that one. I heard from some people. Like one of them was like, yeah, I've got these kids at work. One of them came in the other day. He's like, I'm giving my 2 weeks notice. My last day will be tomorrow. So I don't think kids like understand that concept.
Oh God, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
use some of those in some of my
Right.
content. That is just
Right,
too
right. Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the other one I was thinking of is work 40 hours a week or a month. So that's
Oh,
if they're thinking a month, that's going to be a rude awakening. But yeah, there's so many. There's the other grandparent one is like hey, what's grandma's actual name? So
oh God, how
sometimes they don't
cute.
cover that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you have any favorites or
Oh my God. Well, pasta water. I mean, that one in
oh
it,
yeah.
I just, we're Italian. And so I was sharing that
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
telling my mom about you. And she was like, wait, kids are asking this? They think that it's something they go buy? I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I've heard that
yeah,
from at least half a dozen parents, like the kids like making a recipe. Hey, I'm in the store. Where do I buy the pasta water? That
absolutely
was that
wild.
was in that was in contention to be the title of the book actually for a while.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, yeah.
So what is next for you? I know you're doing some stand-up comedy now. Tell me
Mm.
about that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So, yeah, I started maybe, I don't know, a year and a half ago or something. Yeah, I did. I don't know if you know Caroline Ray. She's a stand-up
Yes,
comedian and
yes.
actress. And she had reached out to me and was like, hey, I I live in Maine in the summer. I think you're hilarious. You want to do some stand up together?" I was like,
Oh my
"Okay, I guess."
gosh.
And
Oh,
she's
cool.
great because she's like, "Yeah, I'll coach you through it on Zoom or whatever." And
Oh,
so
how
that was kind of the
nice.
push that because I mean I always thought some of this could translate pretty well to a live performance, but she helped kind of
Yeah.
push me there and give me a venue to do it. And so so I've done some, and it's it's gone pretty well. So I'm sort of figuring out what's the right path forward with that. I'm not like intending to like be a road warrior hitting all the clubs or whatever. It's just this point
Well,
in my
what are you
life,
talking
but
about? I'm expecting you to perform at the forum like next
okay,
week.
all
So
right.
let me
Well,
know.
I guess I'd say yes to that one, but yeah, like I'm starting to do some like I'm performing at like Penn State for like Parents Weekend, like in a couple weeks, because that's like the perfect audience, of like parents and
Yes.
college kids. So I'm kind of exploring doing more of that kind of thing, where there's like where people will really relate to the content and sort of do some other kind of engagement. So we'll see where that goes. No, I'm really lucky to be able to kind of explore some of this stuff, and yeah, it's been really fun.
That is amazing. And you are perfect for that. And that is truly low-hanging fruit of your
Right,
ideal audience. So, oh my
right,
gosh,
right.
how
Yeah,
great.
yeah. So
Gosh,
yeah,
that
so
is so awesome.
feel free to suggest it at your
I
kids' schools or
will.
whatever.
I will. I'll be
Right,
like,
yeah,
hey, you guys need to get this guy. He's
yeah,
incredible. That would be
yeah.
what a fun little addition to Parents Weekend too, because I feel like it doesn't really
Right.
have anything like that
Right.
typically.
Yeah. I mean, that's my experience. I mean, there's stuff, but I'm sure always looking for something fun that, for parents to do and families to do. So yeah, or even like, homecoming or orientation or stuff. Cause I've heard people say to me like, "Oh, we were at Wisconsin, Madison, for or orientation. They were like playing your videos during orientation or whatever." So there's a good, I think there's a good outlet there. So
Yes.
yeah, so I'm going to continue to kind of yeah, hopefully the book will go well. If it does, hopefully there'll be a future book or two. And obviously the social media content is stuff I want to keep doing, and as long as people are enjoying it, and yeah, I'm very thankful because, like I said, I'm lucky to be in this position. I left my corporate job last year to kind of put some more time into this, and yeah, it's been really fun.
I mean, that's the most charming thing about your whole presentation is you're one of us, Chip. You're
Right.
a normal parent, and it's
I
just
know.
so appealing. So I think you have the most successful road ahead of you, and I think that's awesome. And I'm so excited that
Well,
I'm going to be able
thanks.
to say I got you on my podcast. I knew you
Yeah. Well,
when. That's what I'm going to be
well,
able to say.
Well, likewise, when you're like the
So
queen of getting kids jobs or whatever, I can say the
yes,
same. Yeah.
yes. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate you. And I wish you all the best. And I wish your son all the best. And I hope he gets hired immediately out of college.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
not, hit me up. Let me know.
Might have to
Happy to
call
help
you.
him
Yeah.
out.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you. And yeah, thanks again for having me.
I hope you've enjoyed this interview as much as I have. It was a lot of fun getting to chat with him. I will include a link to his book in my show notes. And as always, please share this episode with your friends if you think it's something they would enjoy. And I will talk to you next week.